Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this April 14th meeting. And before we go any further, just for the welcoming remarks, dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Not too many lips were moving, but we'll continue. This being said, good evening, everyone. To take the words of 1755 group, the word has changed. It is true that the world has changed in the last few weeks while we're holding a meeting virtually, as everywhere throughout the world, virtually. The families, the friends, the businesses are doing the same thing. It is, without a doubt, this situation is not an easy one. Maybe you feel lonely at this time, anxious, overcome by these events, overcome not to be able to spend the Easter weekend with people you love. Or simply, you're tired of going to get a snack for your children 20 times a day, or quite a few times a day. We don't get used to it easily. I want you to know, however, that in spite of the difficult moments that we live in, it will go well. We are convinced that things will go well, and your municipality is working very hard to overcome this crisis. Our finance director will present his prediction later on tonight. You will see that Dieppe will get out of it easy in spite of the situation. And as you already know, your center of coordination, the emergency center, has been open since March 19th, last Friday. We finished a fourth week of isolation. Nevertheless, the employees who participate to this group of public health and safety, they meet virtually twice a day. Namely, to make sure that we will continue to support the public health, as well as to offer and reduce the financial impact to the municipality. We continue to offer our citizens essential services, such as the supply of running water, the water and storage system, the garbage collection, the snow removal. Oh, I think we're done with that. I hope so, at least. And the protection service, again, the fire department, among others. This being said, some measures were taken to protect the health of our employees while continuing to offer essential services to our citizens. We want to protect our citizens, our employees, and make sure that a team is ready to replace the one on location if there should be disease that would come about. Things are changing every day according to the public health. I want to thank our employees who, overnight, have had to get used to new ways of working. What was before the standard is not anymore. What was simple is less and takes more time to execute. The new protocol, the rules of safety are being implemented for those who have to go to work. I am extremely proud of our employees who, in spite of everything, offer essential services to our citizens, to our residents. Your devotion and your commitment towards our community is not unnoticed and are greatly appreciated. Thank you to the administration for having put together a plan to allow us to continue to offer the essential services to our citizens. During the last month, the city of Dieppe took several other actions to reduce the spreading of the virus. The dog fail, the golf field and all the other facilities of the municipalities are closed to the public, including the game structure in our park. I know that many of you were very happy to have a new space where your best friend or your best four-legged friends could go and run freely. But these are difficult moments. Without precedent, we need the cooperation of all our citizens to reduce the spreading of the COVID-19. Even though our fields, our bicycle trail are open, I must tell the importance of keeping 6 feet or 2 meters of distance between two persons. This afternoon, I saw three teenagers, walk on Charlottesville Road, side by side. That's not what we expect of our youth or the population as a whole. These measures can be believed to be extreme for some, but they are of the greatest importance to cease the spreading of this virus. We are all concerned by this situation out of this world, and we depend on our citizens to be an example for the rest of the province. By following all directive of our health people, we depend on you to help us in our mission of reducing the curve of the spreading of COVID-19 by staying home, by respecting the directive guideline given by the chief doctor of health care in New-Brunswick to reduce the number of persons who will catch and the number of potential deaths. In closing, I want once again to thank our staff who've been working very hard since the beginning of this crisis, even if the daily affair of our employees have changed. They keep giving an excellent service to the residents. I'm proud of their devotion, their involvement. We must do things differently. For how long? Only the future will tell. But in the meantime, we want to offer you some sun in your life. This is why we have created a new group on Facebook called Branch Recreation. It's not to spread virtual leisure activities that are offered, but the area where the leisure department will offer an service. I want to thank all the essential workers who each day show a courage and a resiliency. And we talk from the outside, not only about the employees, but whether it be in the health sector and all the other services going through grocery, pharmacy, and everything else. This allows us to remain safe in our house for those who must remain home. And especially thank you, all the residents, for your patience, your precious cooperation. Together, we can reduce the spreading of this virus. But yes, we will win this fight. Thank you for your attention and for your patience especially. This being said, we will go on with the agenda. Obviously, the meeting has been called to order. We have a quorum. I see several faces that I recognize. All the members of council are present. Conflict of interest. Is there any conflict of interest to be declared for any item? Councillor Roger Leblanc, I think we already know it will be on the resolution dealing with the purchase of trucks. If I'm not mistaken, I think that your employer, the list is too long, but no, sorry. No, the list of participants, I'm sorry. I can't find Roger here. Yes, you're there, but I'm turning everybody off, but I can't find you on the list. There. Thank you. I will abstain from 10.5.2. I will not participate in that discussion. Thank you very much. It is noted. Thank you. Uh, we will ask a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Arsenault. Thank you. On the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. So the motion is carried unanimously. 7.1, inquiries by council members to the Kodiak RCMP. I don't see anyone representing the RCMP tonight. Once again, if you have any complaint, please give them to our administrator, executive director, so that he can contact the RCMP and tell them about it. Now, let's go on to the public hearing dealing with the rezoning application. That will be Gerard or Fernet. Which one? Good evening. Andre, can you open your mic? Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Gerard tonight. Alexandre, go ahead. Can you hear me? Yes. Want Do you see the plan in front of you? Not yet. It's coming, says the mayor. There. We're there. We're at public hearing for a rezoning application that we receive. It's a property located on Amiro Street. So today, the presentation, as all others, will go through the deadline and the different dates that apply, and also give the details of the projects and what is involved in the application. So you have in front of you the critical date for the zoning. You have before you the council in a motion to have a public hearing tonight. It was tonight, April the 14th. It was put on our website, and we also sent, as usual, a notice to all the citizens within 100 meters of the property to notify them of the public hearing. And they can have the opportunity to visualize public hearing online. And we also gave sufficient time to the people to write to us to send their comments. Effectively, we received 2 comments, written comments that is, that will be read after the public hearing. So, to continue with the deadline, on behalf of the Planning Commission, went through the project, and we will make a recommendation. And at the next meeting in May, the councils can make a decision as to the zoning process involved. The proposed project is on a property located, as you can see here on the picture, it represents the property in question. We are close to Roberval Street in Amiro. Here we have a slide to represent the context of the site. The perimeter in red is the property to be rezoned. And we have a housing context that is quite unique in the sector. Roberval Street is mostly single dwelling houses, and if we go further westerly, then we have multifamily or a row on the east and west of the property on St. Anselm Park around. You have before you a proposed plan that shows the proposal. We have 4 row houses with 22 buildings in all. The access will be from Amiro through a private entrance that will meet the standard, the appropriate standard, according to the development in question. So each unit will have their own individual access with a garage, with a backyard. So it's quite a nice development. You have in front of you the proposal of 10 row houses. Here again, it's on it's simplistic, but we are proposing here to have canacel or stone on the front part. On the entrance side, we talk about the material that will be a higher quality specific material that will be used. Here again, these are houses of a story and a half, and we are proposing a garage. This will be part and parcel of, and also a second story. And certain things are quite consistent with the environment in question. Another item that is part of this proposal is the development of a garage, an accessory building, 1,500 square feet. And in my report, in my preliminary report, it's the position of the Planning Commission that would be a garage. We talk about 1,500 square feet, and it's quite a big garage, and there's question of developing a kitchen inside the garage. We can only make sure that the garage or the building will be more appropriate to the environment, and we can reduce it or adapt it to the size of the, which will be more appropriate, something like 800 square feet. And here you have the legal details. That's what you have, the legal amendment for the zoning bylaw. And we'll go to a RHM zoning and row houses on the property from R1 to RHM. This concludes in part the public hearing. The next step will be to present the recommendation for the Planning Commission to receive their recommendation, and will be brought to the council for their recommendation. And to be noted also, I communicated with people in the neighborhood. There was a concern as to the location of the entrance and having to do with the drainage, how the drainage will be done on the property, the withdrawal on the property. So all of these items, I was able to answer them by phone. They didn't want to present a formal comment, but simply they wanted to have answers to his questions. So his questions were essentially answered adequately. So he doesn't want to pursue. And as for the entrance and the localization of the entrance, that was his main concern, and also the withdrawal of the garage. But as for the drainage, of course, the drainage will be done appropriately according to the municipality rules and regulations to make sure that everything is in conformity. For the reading of the comments that we receive, I will ask Mark. Yes, our executive director, the administrator, will read one or two letters. We received letters. Mr. Gerard answered the call. So that was one that we had received. Second one we received by email. We have to read it at the public hearing. It goes as follows. I'm writing this letter to communicate my opposition to this change of zoning. My reason bringing me to oppose it are as follows. It's one of the last place where it is still possible to have access to the park through the water park where we feel good in the city. This take us away from the traffic and should be added to the park. I see some animals in that land, such as deer. The human activities in the surrounding have brought the animals to hide. There's not too many places where they can hide. Furthermore, I think the number of habit available are meet more than today's needs. With the houses that will be available on the market, I don't see the necessity for this development. And over and above adding the traffic on Amiro, for which the police officers don't seem to be able to control the speed limit where we pass on double line and we go 100 kilometers, this will make the problem more serious. Number three, over and above the COVID-19 problem, this will create more stress where a potential buyer will see the street full of mud that will not be clean, and left without mentioning the risk of accidents due to the high speed of the vehicle. By bringing the noise of the construction from morning to night for months and even years to come, this will really hinder our quality of life and will make our residents lose their value and against the well-being of the collectivity. And if the rezoning is allowed, if you really like Saint-Osam and Dieppe, purchase this and defend it from development and keep it as a park. Jean-Marc Landry signed this letter. These are the objections we received. Any question from the councillors on this project? Mr. Leblanc, Councillor Leblanc. Go ahead. Thank you, Your Worship. Will these properties be owned by the developer or by the residents? Gerard? At this time, the owner will own the property. I imagine that there will be a partnership well, according to the conversation I've had, that's the way it will be. I don't see any appropriate place where to put the snow, to store the snow. I saw what happened in the past, and same thing will happen here. It's a huge parking with houses that don't have any appropriate place to keep the snow. Well, we will have to deal with that issue, with that question, and each one will have their entrance, their driveway, and on the plan there is space plan where the property can put the snow on the side of that property, and all along the back of the property where you see. Well, maybe I can put up the plan again, if I may. Do you see? Yes. Yes. So, well, it doesn't seem to be working. Do you see the mouse? Yes. Here, you see, it's like any development for row houses where you have entrances or driveway. The snow is placed on the space that is on the side, and it works adequately. And across there is space to put the snow again at the extreme. If ever there should be a question with the snow, if there's any problem, the owner will have the responsibility of taking care of it, and he will have to remove the snow by truck. He is aware of the situation, but it will be a problem because there's sufficient opportunities to manage the snow on the property. Because if I go down 2 or 3 slides, 2 slides further, 2 stories with the garage underneath, there doesn't seem to be much space for the snow. Yes, but at the extremes, there's certainly spaces to put the snow, especially on both extremes of the building. Well, that's a condition that should be applied immediately. That's a condition that we should add. We should tell the owner to make sure that the snow, that it should be clear so that we don't have another problem with the snow removal. It should be made clear immediately. Unless the scale is not proper or appropriate, it doesn't seem to be much space to put the snow, because from what I see, there doesn't seem to be much room. It is noted, Mr. Melanson tells me, that he received a second correspondence. I thought there were 2. And then we'll continue. Mr. Brido, I have you on the list. Second one, sorry, Your Worship. Second one, hi.
Owner of a home inspection company in Moncton. I am the owner of 2 lots circled below. My concern about the development are: 1, the area where they need to build the road is small, and I'm afraid construction will be happening on my property and or any other areas of my property. 2, how is the draining going to be? The draining is going to be done to ensure no extra runoff water goes on my property. 3, where will be their snow removal area? And 4, I do not oppose the project, but I would like to ensure my concern will not happen. And 5, I would also request plans of the project. Alors, Monsieur Louis Gagnon.
Thank you. Now let's go on with the question from the councillors. Mr. Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you also to Councillor Leblanc, Roger. He raised the question when I look at the plan. I said, oh, we're getting involved in the same problem that we've had in the past. Where do we put the snow? And I look at the space, even if we talk about green spaces, there is not much space for the neighbors to put their snow. For me, that should be a question that will be solved beforehand, that will be raised, so that in the future we won't have to live the situation that we've had in the past. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Brideau. Monsieur Melançon, you have a comment? Yes. Members of council, this is a private project. The road will be private, so the developer will be responsible for the snow removal and to satisfy the clients that will be owner of this building on his property. Municipality will not remove the snow, be responsible for the snow removal. Any other questions from the councillors? Mr. Alain, go ahead. Thank you very much. Alexandre. The developer, will it be condos or apartments? The intention at this time, there will be buildings for rental purpose. Does the zoning change when you have condos by opposition to apartment? No. We can have a condo in single family unit, like we can have a condo with a detached or a multi-dwelling. So it's up to the owner. It's just a question of the owner. Well, like the other councillors, I think it'll be easier to manage with one owner than if it's an association, a condo association like we had in the past, and it didn't work very well. Miss Boudier. Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to have more explanation on the use of a garage. Why? We've had many discussions with the owner as to the size of the garage. We agree that the owner is responsible to respect the requirement in an RMH area. We cannot we need a garage to change the oil or things like that. Normally, it's an accessory building, and he will need a place to store his lawnmower. But at this time, it is clear that, in our opinion, there will be a kitchen inside that accessory, and we are willing to recommend that this be added. This is why we believe that the space of the building was reduced. It's more reasonable and be easier to manage the building, to manage the snow removal and lawn mowing in the summer and things like that. Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Leblanc? Sorry, would you start from the beginning? I want to know how we applied the 09 to the property. It's a different territory. I would like to know the drainage for a 09. I don't have the exact details how to manage the water flow on the site, but there will be a drainage, and it will be up to the owner to make sure that the water management will be done adequately. But I mean, there will be some ways are easier and cheaper. It will be the responsibility of the owner to make sure that the management is complete and adequate on his property. And we will deal with this as we go along, but there's no drainage, anything to do. There's no pretension. I mean, we don't foresee there will be a retention basin. Where will that water go at this time? It's not solved. There will be a retention basin. Maybe it will be underground. We don't know. I'm not an engineer, so I don't want to venture too far with a technical question like that one. But obviously, he will have to make sure that the water management is adequate and proper on his property. To put a drainage with surface water, and everything would be underwater with the pipe and with the. At this time, Your Worship, any development has to have to prepare a drainage plan that will consider an effect zero. We call it the zero net. They have to put a plan that will be assessed by our staff, and it's part of the building permit. We look at a zero effect on the property and on the neighboring and they must have a registered plan that will be proposed to the engineering department and be part of the construction. Yes, thank you. No, it's not part of the rezoning process, no. Other questions? No? Thank you for this presentation. Now we will go on to item 7.3. 2? No, 7.3. Already? Oh. Presentation of the financial statement. Mrs. Casey, Mrs. Ross, good evening and welcome to this meeting. Mrs. Casey will be first to speak. If I can open her mic, that is. Do you hear me? Yes? Thank you, Your Worship. I will share my presentation. Do you see it? Yes? Yes. Good evening. I will present virtually this financial statement for the exercise ending 31st of December 2019. First of all, I confirm that we've had an audit and the financial statement we prepare pursuant to the Canadian accounting for public sector. Our external audit, your internal, your accounting is done by yourself. So it has to be, and there are differences in the figures because the everything is done the same, and we have a reserve. It means that the accounting standard were respected. As for the basis, financial and consolidated, it understands everything in the city of Moncton, as well as financial statement or the operation in the city of Dieppe and the Champlain. Before I go through the figures, I'd like to thank the finance team for good cooperation. For the editor, thank you, Stefan and his team. And to their credit, we saw no mistake. There was no adjustment that we found. It confirms that the accounting system are good. You have good accountants working for you. I want to confirm that it's independent from the city, and as auditors we have to be independent, and our audit has to be independent. So as for the result, as presented, the financial statement for the public sector, you see that your main income, we see 2019 compared to 2018 and the differences. Your main income, which is the taxes, the property tax for 2019, 51.4 million compared to 49.3, an increase of 2,096,000. And for the water and sewerage, your revenue was 12.7 million for 2019 compared to 12.3, an increase of 414,000. As for the contribution to the other government and the capital contribution in 2019 was 14.16 million compared to 4.9, a difference of 9 million. This increase is due to the multi-intergenerational building. And the other income, 5.5 million in 2019 compared to 4.7, an increase of 585, or the total income for 2019, total 83.9 million compared to 71.2 in 2018. So your income increased by 12.65 million. As for the expenses, if we look at the main categories, transportation service, for 2019, the total was 14.9 million compared to 14.3 for 2018, difference of 606. Protection was quite the same, 12.6 for each year. The cultural and recreational service, 9.3 in 2019 and 9 million in 2018, a difference of 243. And the others, 27 million in 2019 compared to 23 million, an increase of 3.9 million. And in other is because of the so it makes that the expenditures for 2019, the total expenses, 64.1 million compared to 59.3 in 2018 for different. So if we look at the results, the public sector for 2019, the excedent was 83.9 compared to 71 in 2018, an increase in 12.6 for the year 2019. And if we look at the accounting, this is the accounting internally. It will be presented more in details after my presentation. You will notice that the profit was 623. And there was a deficit in water and sewage of 2,700,000. That will give a difference of 2,077,000. As for the adjustment, this is simply to show the items that were adjusted, and between the results that we find, it has to do with the public sector. You've made adjustment in the order of 21.9 million. And the main adjustment are related to subsidies and capital. It's considered 14.1 million. The capital expenses are excluded as an expense for public sector accounting. They were removed 7.1 million. The reimbursement of long-term debt is not an expense in public sector, so 8.15 billion transfer to the reserve that we exclude for 2.6 million. And in our audited financial statement, we have amortizing that is 11.6 million. And finally, The profit for the last few years that excluded financial debt were total 553,000. And as for the treasury flux, if you look at the audited financial report, you see that the profit 19.8 million, but that amount is not necessarily equal to the fluctuation of the bank account. So we always make adjustment to reconcile the bank. If we start with the exercise that was 26, and we add the water and the other elements that are non-monetary during the year, 9.8 million, we come to 29.6 million. That figure represents the treasury flux that were adjusted to represent the year 2019. With these treasury flux or the positive influx that were received, you reimburse the long-term net new debt received. You disburse 2,148,000, and you also acquired some capital for 29,385,000 over and above we paid the debt and we acquired a new one that makes a treasury flux, a net inflow annual of minus 1.8. And the balance as of 2019, December 31st, is 12.9 million at the end of the year. At the end of December, the city had 12.9 in the bank or a term deposit. As for your reserve, so the city of Dieppe has some reserve that you keep traffics. So in 2019, you have 5 reserve funds. You have the general operation, the general capital. You have water and sewerage operation. You have a capital water and sewerage reserve and public utility. So at the end of 2019, the balance of the reserve was 14.8 million compared to 2018 at 14.3 million. So you increase your reserve funds by 467,000 for 2019. And now we'll present a few financial ratios. So the first one, that is a ratio that represents the amount of reimbursement, refund of interest and capital, and we divide by the total expenses of your general operation fund, the reimbursement of the debt and the interest, what it represents in percentage of your total expenses for the operation, the general for 2019, you'll see a ratio was 15.8%. So once again, it decreased. If you look at 2010, there was a reduction, 15% in the last few years, but it's the lowest since 2010. So it means that your percentage of your budget for general operation goes less and less towards the reimbursement of the debt. So as for capital, we want to see your investment in capital compare over the last few years. You will see that 2019 was an important year. We had investment in capital, 25,000, and it's in your complex, intergenerational complex that is under construction at the present time. As for the debt, this is the balance of your debt, and if we compare the last 4 years, we are at the end of 2019, at the end of December, 84,558,000. You've reduced your debt by almost 2 million, so it's very good. And finally, we look in percentage your general operation budget, how you compare. If we compare with the taxable value in 2020, the total budget went up by 4% compared to 2019, and the taxable of the assets for the debt increased by 3.6%. So you had a little bit more, but it's quite comparable. This completes my presentation. I would ask if there's any question. I don't see any hands. It's certainly coming, I'm sure. Question, no? Okay. Well, I knew it would come. I would have been surprised, Mrs. Liboutier. It's for Madame Casey. The reserve in your statement are found in the statement. Where do we see them? In what section? What? The reserve funds? Yes. When the reserve funds are accounted as a fund, so they're not part of the financial statements per se as such. This is why there's not a section where you would see the official audited section. All right. Other question? No? Okay, last chance. Thank you very much, Madame Casey. Now we'll ask our money man to continue with this speech, nice speech. That must be me? Yes, it's you, the money man. Is like Miss Casey just showed. There's not much difference between the public and us. What I will present is us, how we work. Our budgets, the way we present them, is when we talk about the budget to the province, it's a counting of fund. It's a cash in, cash out. What do they want? And we transfer from one to the other. So as for the results of 2019, we talk of 628,000 surplus in general fund and 2.7 million of deficit. As for the water and sewage, the operation fund for water and sewage, I will start this year with the water and sewage operation fund. The explanation of 2.7 million, it starts with 3.35 million. That was the legal payment, no run, that was done. We got a reimburse from Transaqua. That is to say, it's a third price. As for the invoicing, Transaqua had to invoice us for 300,000 that represented the portion that was refunded. As for the water rate, water and sewage, we saw a surplus of 150,000, 100,000 for the water residential, and residential we budgeted 8,500 residential, received 8,000, about 120 units more. And commercially, we budgetize to sell approximately 770,000 cubic meter of water, but it's 783. So an increase there also that resulted in 50 million surplus. As for the purchase of water from the city of Moncton last year, if you remember, we went from 53 cents to 61 cents. It was an increase of 15% for us to purchase that water. However, we purchased for 10% less than what was budgeted for. So we budgeted for 2% more, but it resulted in 8% less, so it's a difference of 10%. So all in all, we save $100,000 in the purchase of the water to our budget. As for salary, it's the employees who were not present at work, either because long-term, short-term, whatever it may be, 70,000. And also we received 50,000 for the income in wood cutting. We came to the council, it was for the water source, to clear the water source, and we sell that wood externally, and it's $50,000 surplus. As for the deficit, we talk about $50,000 deficit. This has to do with waterway damage that cost more than was expected. So here is the explanation for the water and the 2.7 million, the water and sewage. Any question? And then I'll go on to the general fund. If you have any question. Any question from the councillors? Before we go on with the operation, no question. Okay, let's go on. So the surplus of 623,000 for the general operation fund has 220,000 in non-fiscal revenues. We talk about building permit. We received 520,000. We had budgeted 300,000, so it's a 220,000 surplus right there. And then there's other permits, small pieces as I call them. Planning and development, we have a 40,000 surplus, variance and different issues like that. Included in 420,000, there's a refund that we receive from the government. We receive a refund during the flooding. And the Francophonie Games that were canceled, so we received $30,000, and also the FCM for the assets. So we were reimbursed to 70%, 80% of these funds. And small pieces like the rental that were 25,000 less. So that's where you have 420,000. As for the salary, we present 370,000 in salary. Here, there's 170,000 that is has to do that I had put as a payable, but we receive. Not the agreement, but from the employee. Yeah, an employee agreement with the firemen. We had to cancel the payable and created a surplus of 170,000. And the other piece, if you wish, that's the 200,000, is once again, it has to do with water and storage. That I said earlier, those who were away from work for health and safety reason. On long-term, short-term. Then we have the external commission. There's a surplus of 50,000. There's a surplus and deficit. Cadet transport, we have 80,000 surplus. The way they operate, and they invoice us during the year according to the budget that was established. At the end of the year, they look at the real. And we were reimbursed 80,000 because it costs less to have the Kodiak Transpo. And there is also for the Regional Service Commission, for the portion of RDMO, the RDMO Commission, oh my God, the marketing. Regional Marketing Association. Hey, yeah, right. So, the Regional Service Commission invoice us but reimburse us at the end of the year because they did nothing. So it was at $20,000. On the other hand, we had a $30,000 for the solid waste and $20,000 for the adapted transportation. We also had a small deficit with the debt service in the amount of $50,000, and here we talk about a small accounting mistake when we transfer at the end of the year. We make a transfer for land purchase. There was money left. We transfer it to the reserve. However, we forgot to include the first payment of the purchase of the property that we put here at the corner of Market and Champlain. So we had to take from the general operation fund, and it created a deficit of $50,000. And last, the snow removal. Last year, in the first 3 months of 2019, it was not the snow was not a problem. It was ice. It was so icy, and salt and sand. We had a deficit of $75,000 just for that. It was hard on the equipment because we had a deficit of $100,000 for the repair of these vehicles in question. We also had a small surplus in the rental of equipment and snow removal that total $50,000. So this is the presentation for the explanation of surplus and deficit. Any question from the councillors? Mr. Godet, go ahead. Thank you, Your Worship. I want to know the $623,000. What will be the use? Does it go in the reserve for the future, or is it targeted for something else? Well, as far as that goes, it's part of our financial plan that was authorized in 2018. As soon as there is a surplus, aim at 2021, the first rule is that we reimburse. We should maximize the general operation reserve. If there's any left, it would go half and half between the reserve of general capital and the replacement equipment. So we did all these transfer in December? Yes, at the end of December. That's when it's decided, the end of December, and it was done. Other question? No? Miss Leboudier, 1 moment, please. Thank you, Worship. Go ahead. My question, in our financial planning, will there be, if the reserve, and I hope will be maximized, when we'll be able to be proactive and reimburse the debt as quickly as possible? As for the debt, the reimbursement of the debt, it will go quite well in future years, and I explain. With the financial plan that was maximized at $1.5 million per year for the loan, and we pay between $5 and $6 million on the debt each and every year, it will decrease by $4 or $5 million on the debt. It was more an information question than anything else. So in the years to come, we have a reserve. So when the reserve are maximized, is there a time when we will be able to be proactive and to put money on the debt per se, more quickly than what we're doing now? Is that a policy that we have? Not really, not the way you put it, but what we do every year, I would say that It's been 2 or 3 years now that we've had a reserve maximized, but there are loans that have to be renewed, and the decision has to be made: do we renew the loan or do we pay it off? But the decision was basically made that we just renewed it and we keep our fluidity as it is, but we keep the reserve to a maximum. It's a good point, and maybe something to look at percentage-wise. If we come to a certain percentage of reserve, maybe we could consider pay more on the debt, or to consider according to the items that have to be renewed with the province. Sometimes it's better to renegotiate and to continue on long term. But I mean, there will be opportunities that will present themselves in years to come on the capital, with the reduction in capital investment, where we plan to put a policy that could be more to our advantage. But the decision to renew is made at the end or the beginning of the fall. So I can bring you some options if we can or cannot go in that direction. If I may, we are allowed to plan properly our assets and to invest in our capital projects with money that we have in our surplus. That's another way of not borrowing for the project that we have in our 5-year plan that allow us to invest cash money. It's important for the city. It means all our water and sewerage, our building, and all the projects that have to be renewed. So it's already indirectly done, but we can look at taking care of that quickly. But it's a balance between the two. We agree that financially we encourage, when we're a young couple, we're always encouraged to pay our mortgage as quickly as possible. In our case, maybe to be able to have more fun later on. Maybe the same with us. It's something to be considered. We have to find a balance between the things, but we have a margin. Monsieur Alain, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Lise, for the presentation. A question for Mr. Thériault. Mr. Thériault, Mrs. Casey said earlier there was a ratio that is important on the interest that we are paying on the capital. It's an expense. Does the ratio for 2021, do you think that it will be more than the 15 point something that was mentioned by Ms. Casey for next year? I would say it will be less. I don't have the exact amount in front of me, but we're on target, if you wish, to have the ratio to be at 10% in 2026, 2027. Thank you. Thank you. Other question? No? Last chance. Thank you, Mr. Thériault. And we go on to the next item on the agenda. 7.4. I don't have 7.4. Mr. Thériault is making a presentation on COVID-19. I'm not going too far tonight. This presentation was not completed when you receive your package. However, I sent an email on the weekend with this presentation. So, before I go to the next slide, I would like to This is something throughout Canada. There several municipalities are going forward and they give relief to the residents as to what we are seeing for COVID-19. There's a large list, but it's not all these items that apply to the parking rates. Parking is free here in Dieppe, so there's no money there. The same thing for the penalty on taxes. In New-Brunswick, the province is taking care of it and not the municipality, so that does not apply. There's something else we're already doing right now. We've made the decision, if you wish, the refund on programs that were canceled. If we look at the Aquatic Center, for instance, there's over 1,000 residents that will be reimbursed or refunded or are and that represent $25,000 for courses where the children were registered. The same thing for ICE if they had paid in advance. Another item is to relieve to the fine, the parking fine. As we know, there's not much going on, so there's not really any fines that were issued or will be. In the near future, we don't have to do anything. It seems to be a natural thing. However, where we have more control or what we can help the residents with, what we are proposing for the next 3 months, April, May, and June, is a cancellation of interest rate on the water and sewage invoice. For all the balance that are not paid, the invoicing is done on a monthly basis. In this case, we will put a 0%, if you wish, for April, May, and June. The second part, or second thing, cancellation of NSF check, not sufficient fund. We talk about $5,000 to $6,000 that it can have for an impact to cancel the expenses, and that's there's not a budget. What I just said was for number one, but if it can remove the stress of the citizens, well, it's we are putting it forward. Same thing for number three, suspend the collection, the efforts of collection. That also means that there won't be any water cut off during the 3 months. This is what we are proposing as relief. And you have in a package, I don't have the number, but it will be a memorandum. Question? Next item. Ms. Ida, go ahead. Thank you. Mr. Administrator, the presentation that was made today, there is a revenue card. What is the direct cost for COVID-19? That's my first question. The second one is, allow me if I'm ignorant, but 90% of our income, or 95%, are paid by property tax. Is there a chance that people don't pay for their taxes? And also, if the situation should worsen everywhere in Canada, some companies are laying off or reducing the salary. Is there something that could be done? These are the three questions that I have. The impact for the municipality. We have a discussion with the treasurer. It's that we go through every year during the budgetary, the other revenues that they will, besides the taxation that we receive from the province and paid by the residents, it's 4%. So the impact for loss of revenue are less than other municipalities in the province. This helps us in this case. Now, as for the province, Question number 2, Councillor Alain, was what again? If there's a chance that people don't pay it. The province has confirmed that all the property tax received by the province and municipality will receive in 2020 all the amounts of money that were collected. So we have that guarantee that the money will come in for 2020. 2021 is unknown, and we'll have a discussion in the fall as to what will happen. And question number 3. Have you developed a plan if the crisis should go on with other economy, other savings? At the present time, all the programs are completed until the end of May. We've made projections for June and July, so this is with the period of time that they are allowing us with public health that the crisis could last. All the students and temporary employees at the present time were laid off. All the employees are still there for essential service, and the guidelines are followed according to the public health or the province. When a decision is made by the province, we will have the same discussions with all the municipalities in New-Brunswick. We keep the staff hired, but we make analysis, we look at projection as to what could be the impact beyond July. This will be considered once we have a more precise importance of the crisis. This will go at the end of July, and Dieppe is in a good state at the present time. Thank you. Thank you. Other questions? Yes, Mr. Cadet? Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. Has to do with all the work. The amount of contracts for maintenance for road in the municipality. Is that still going on? And secondly, our maintenance staff for bicycle trail, is that going on, or has everything stopped? As for the city of Dieppe, we've established the 4 priorities for essential services, and that's what we base ourselves on, as to the services that must be offered now that winter service, and we think it's over with. We will now change the approach on the services that we have to offer in the spring and the summer. A service such as the cleaning of sidewalks, side of the road, the patching. These elements is indirectly part and parcel of essential service that we have to offer for public safety, security. We have to offer so that it be included with the contractors. We've given contract for these services recently. Engineering service is discussing with the province as for infrastructure project. For the time being, province is telling us that we will go on. We are discussing with them every week to see if it will be amended, if there will be a readjustment as to the importance of the crisis. Province is giving us their support. We can call tenders. We've given quite a bit, and there's 2 to be given in May, because this deals with water and sewerage, the underground service. We are going on. We think it's an element that will contribute to the stability of launching the economy, and when we discuss every week with a colleague of each town and villages, that's something we look at, and the province have it as a priority, and we also take that in consideration. For the present time, we're going out with a project. There will be a plan that will be asking for each contractor to the manager of respecting the public health directive for their staff. That will be part and parcel of the whole development of putting the contract and to undertake the project. I hope it answered your question. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Other questions on the issue? I don't see Ms. Arsenault. Sec. There. Go ahead. It's not a question. It's an information that I received today. Can you get closer to the mic? We can't hear you. It's information I received today for the road work, the Fox Creek Road and Pointe Renard is closed to the traffic as of the 15th, means tomorrow. The 15th, 16th, and 17th of April for road repair. And there will be a detour implemented. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ms. Arsenault. There is a project from Trans-Aqua that is undertaken at the corner of Fox Creek and Amiro called Live Station. And they go through Amiro. It was discussed last year. We push it off till the spring, and it will be done this week so that there won't be any delay. This is what will be happening on not Arsenault. Amiro, not Arsenault. Arsenault is I was thinking of the councillor. If we have a project on Arsenault, corner of Amiro and Fox Street, maybe it's the best time to do it. There's much less traffic at the present time. It's a good. It depends how you look at it. More any other questions? No. This brings us to. I'm not done with my presentation. I knew you had much more to discuss and we went to the details. Yes. Okay, go on with the presentation of COVID. I talk about relief. Now the presentation is on the impact for the next 4 months, the impact. So as for the loss of revenue, for us, as the administrator just mentioned, manager, we're less at risk than other municipalities because the percentage in the loss of the dependency as for the income is less. We have a lower percentage of our income. They're part of that category, if I may say so. As for the non-tax income, the ice rental, aquatic, the construction, the building permit, these are the three main ones where we'll have loss of revenue. Rental of halls and sports property. All in all, it can go up to $500,000 till the end of July when we talk about these four categories, up to $350,000 till the end of May. As for the interest on investment, as we saw earlier, we have a reserve of close to $15 million that represents liquidity where we have investment at the credit union, but as we could see, the interest rate have gone down if you looked at the stock market. So the sale of water sale, some industries are slowing down, which make it such that they will use less water, and if ever the quantity of water that go to the industries that have a meter, it would reduce by $25,000 a month. There's the interest that we proposed for the relief earlier. This represents about $5,000-6,000 per month. And the direct cost that were that have come so far. It's minimal, but we don't know what the future holds. But we talk for the present time approximately $20,000 that was for signs that were purchased for the fact that you are all on telework, homework. And we had to invest as well as a machine to clean up, representing about $20,000. On the other side, there's savings. We plan during the next four energy for our building, City Hall, that is on a slowdown at present time. The arenas are closed down and the aquatic center. So with the staff, we've identified there would be savings that could go up to $170,000 until the end of July. Gasoline, we know that the price of gas has gone down. The vehicles are not used as much, maybe a few $10,000. Building operations, office supply, there will be a savings. As for the transportation, we lose, on one side, we lose revenue. We have a budget of $300,000 per year, but part of that amount will not be received. But it represents about $15,000 per month. But we will save, on the other hand, because if I'm not mistaken, when the decision there is one bus less, that will make it such there will be savings of approximately $20,000, $25,000 attached to transportation, public transport, and the adapted handicap. But there's savings approximately $20,000 per month. The events, cancellation of events, I don't think any decisions have been made. But if we are in the crisis until the end of July, several events will have to be canceled, such as Mercredi Show, Imaginary, and whatever. And the main savings will come from human resources. We talk about the contractual, the people who gave courses at the swimming, at the pool, students this summer, and about 20 engineering, development, there's one, recreation, there's several. So if we don't hire them, it represents approximately $260,000 until the end of July that it would have as an impact. Compared to other municipalities, we have adopted several new positions in the budget of 2020. Several of these positions have yet to be filled, but since we work on a slowdown, it may not happen in the next few months. If the positions are not filled, that will represent savings budget-wise, if we talk about figures now. For the general operation fund, at the end of May 2020, we talk about loss of $406,000, but savings of $70,000 in savings. At the end of July, we plan a loss of $700,000 and savings of $1.1 million for a surplus of $400,000 at the end of July. It's not the same picture for the water and storage, though, where the loss of income at the end of May is $60,000, but for savings of $10,000, so there's less savings. So we plan a deficit of $50,000. And for this scenario going to July 31st, it's double, $120,000 deficit. If that was to happen, well, I'm sure we won't let water and storage with a deficit. We have the flexibility of transferring money from the general fund to water and storage. So we can talk about it before the end of the year, goes without saying. In summary, as you could see on the short term, things are going well for two different reasons. We've talked about it. The percentage, the income from our own services in Dieppe represent 3.8% of the city budget. A neighboring 7.8, the neighboring municipality, they're more at risk than we are. The crisis makes it that these revenues are at risk. We have less to lose here than our neighbor. Parking is an example, very good example. We don't have any revenue, so we don't lose anything. And the second, we've talked about it, savings, vacant position. We talk about 4 or 5 vacant positions that could last for another 4 or 5 months, and it could represent quite a few thousands. On a long term, however, it's not quite as rosy. It has an impact on the tax on the pie. The building are downward. If it's not built at that time, it's not part of the tax ratio, and it will not be decreased because of that. Residential market can have an impact. If the houses are not being sold and the government that make the evaluation of houses would be downward for us, it's a reduction for the tax. And then number 3, there's the sale of property for expansion Dieppe. If there's no sales, no construction, that will have an impact. So it's 3 points that will affect negatively the tax, and it would have an impact on the cost of merchandise. It's the world economy that is suffering from it. So the equipment, the cost of material for the construction, for the capital, it risks costing more. So these are long-term that we could see in the years to come. Your Worship, that completes my presentation. Thank you very much. Now for the real question period. Mr. Godet, just a sec, please. Go ahead. Thank you, Your Worship. My question has to do with the problem for summer students. The federal government will do its share by bringing a program of seeds where they will pay salaries for summer students. 100%. I don't know if we qualify as a municipality, but even if we don't qualify, maybe we should consider to do our share to help students to find summer jobs and to see if among everything that is happening, whether it's planting of trees or we could hire a certain number of students to help them to make their summer so that they can go back to university next year. It's a suggestion from me, but I think it's our duty as municipal government to try at least to help and to help summer students. I bring this out to be considered by the council or by management. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Your Worship, well, we have to follow the directive of public health in the province to see what kind of service and what job we're allowed to do and that we must do. It's possible that in 2020 there won't be any flower planting, but if we're in contact with our students, those who had the position that were committed to them, if we say if there is a starting date, we would contact them immediately. For the time being, to have students and not to have them at work, it's goes against what we must do to be responsible financially speaking. We look at the situation, we have a contact with the students that were already in line. Those who were in line to work for the city, it will be have to do with the level of service. It will depend on what is happening. Yes, we have it hard. We are aware of the challenge, as other employers have had to temporarily lay off employees, and we hope the federal and possibly the federal will be open to programs that could help the students who don't have work for 2020. But now, that's where we are. We assess the situation as we go along. Thank you. Other questions on the presentation by the members of council? I don't see any hands. We will continue. With that brings us question by members of the public. Our public, where we have not yet received any question. We're there, but we have received nothing from the public that is listening and watching us. In due time. Adoption of the minutes for the regular council meeting of March 23rd, moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question. All those in favor say aye. Yes? Is there hands going up? All right. Motion carried. So we go on to administration, the presentation. 10.1 for the administration, the election of a deputy mayor. So, on a yearly basis, the council choose a deputy mayor to help the work of the mayor. So you have the directive in front of you for the person for the next 12 months, starting May 10th. Can I have someone to read it? Mr. Alain, please, to read. Thank you, Your Worship. Pursuant to Bylaw A-4 2018 entitled Procedural Bylaw of the Municipal Council of the City of Dieppe, the council elect Ernest Thibodeau as deputy mayor for term ending May 10th, 2021. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Alain, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. No, sorry. Councillor Leblanc, sorry. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. 10.2, adoption of the financial statements. To read the motion, the resolution, Monsieur Leblanc. Go ahead. Thank you, Your Worship. That council adopt the audited financial statements of the City of Dieppe for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019, as presented by the firm Ernst & Young. I so move. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. Yes. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. At least two around the table. If you choose to leave and not come back, Ms. Casey and Ms. Ross. 10.2.2 on the question of the financial relief COVID-19 pandemic. For the reading of the resolution, Mr. Thibodeau. That council accept the following recommendation prepared by the City of Moncton administration in order to provide financial relief to the Dieppe residents and business during the month of April, May, and June 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, waiving interest charges of unpaid balances for water and sewage services, suspension connection efforts, including the suspension of the water supply interruption process, and waiving fees for non-sufficient funds check. I move. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Brideau. On the question? No question. All those in favor say aye. Yes. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. 10.3.1. Tender award reconstruction for Arsenault Road. Mr. Minaso. Following a tender call, we've received 5 bids for the construction of Arsenault Road, and is the part within the city limit. We want to give the contract to Dexter Limited, which has 1,177,663 plus HST, and also engineering costs for $100,000 that will be authorized, and a transfer also for $35,000 to complete the budget. That is a must for this contract. This is our recommendation to proceed with this. For the reading of the resolution, Councillor Cormier. That Council award a contract for the project entitled Reconstruction Arsenault Road to the lowest bidder, Dexter Construction Company Limited, for the cost of $1,177,633 plus HST. Authorize WSP Canada Inc. to undertake the engineering services related to said project at the cost of $100,000 plus HST, and further authorize that these expenditures be defrayed from account 3-3-35-58-7655 General Capital Budget Arsenault Road. That Council authorize a budget transfer for the amount of $35,000 from account number 3-3-35-58-7649 General Capital Budget Champlain Street to account number 3-3-35-58-7655 General Capital Budget Arsenault Road. I so move. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question. Question, Monsieur Ada? Thank you, Your Worship. Question for the manager, Mrs. Spencer. The part that comes from Champlain is the province partner to do this. We didn't have an answer. What is the answer, or is there an answer? Ms. Spencer? Thank you, Your Worship. Do you hear me? Yes? Speak closer to the mic, maybe. The last discussion we've had with the province goes back to December. At that time, they told us that there was no fund for the reconstruction, the part that is outside the city limit. However, I sent an email last week, but I have yet to receive any answer. So, until now, the answer is no. Thank you very much. Other question? None? Other than favor, say aye. Yes, contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. This brings us to 10.4.1 for the different representative on committees with the election that have been put out for a year, with the election that are reported 4 months until possibly a year. We've had to renew the elected members on committees or external committees. If you see them us, we can read them all or just as a whole. What is your wish? We can read them all. We know the role, responsibility of each one. So we talk about who wants to read, who moved the resolution. Somebody shy, bashful. Mr. Gaudette? Mr. Gaudette? I assume you want to read the whole text? That the appointment of members of council attached be accepted. Nomination of mayor, representatives on the different committees of council adopted on April 14, 2020. Standing committee on the strategies and policy, public, mayor and council, commission authorized and external, police, regional, Daniela, administration for volunteer of the RCMP, Patricia Arsenault, liaison committee for the three municipal councils, Jean-Claude Cormier. The disintoxication, Roger Leblanc Capital Theatre Incorporated, Public Library, Patricia Arsenault, Advisory Committee of the Literacy, Patricia Arsenault, Advisory Committee, Community on the Climate, on the International, Romeo Leblanc for the Moncton, Jean-Marc Brideau, Collectivity Flower, Roger Leblanc, Multicultural of the Great Moncton, Jean-Marc Brideau, Committee, the Santa Claus Parade, Roger Leblanc, Arts and Culture for the Endless Widow, Governance of Transportation, Kodiak, Grievance Committee, QP, Local 3515, Yvon Lapierre, Patricia Arsenault, Ted Gaudette, Association of New-Brunswick City Executive, Yvon Lapierre and Ernest Widow, Standing Committee for Resolution, Jacques Cormier, Jean-Marc Brideau, Expansion Dieppe, Mayor and 2 elected members, named by the members, Yvon Lapierre, Ted Gaudette. I so move. Moved by Councillor Gaudette, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. On the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. Yes, contrary-minded nay. Carried. As presented. 10.4.2. 3 plus. Essentially, it's just a renewal. If someone wants to move. Ms. Arsenault, please. Do you want to read it? Patricia. Can you put your light on? You have it? Your worship. That council appoint Alain Parra on the board of directors of the 3+ Economic Development Corporation for another term ending June the 11th, 2022. I so move, your worship. Moved by Councillor Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Alain. On the question. The question, all those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded nay. Carried. 10.4.3. No, we just did it. Point 2. It's point 3 now. 10.4.3. Expansion Dieppe. Once again, it's a renewal of a mandate for Mr. Dag, who is the Vice President of the Board of Directors. Madame Arsenault, Your mic is still on, so would you read it, please? That the Municipal Council approve Yves Dag on the Board of Directors of Expansion Dieppe for another term ending June the 30th, 2023. I so move. Moved by Ms. Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Lamoutier. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. 10.5.1 purchase of sport utilities to replace the municipal fleet. We had one that was 14 years old, to replace it by a sport utility with a Taylor Ford sales and service in the amount of $30,484, and then only one tender was received and meets all the requirements. So we recommend to proceed with that directive in the purchase of the vehicle. For the reading of this resolution, Monsieur Thibodeau. Purchase sport utility vehicle by approving that the council award a contract of purchase for the amount of $30,488 pursuant to the proposal March 21st, 2020, and authorize that this expenditure be defrayed from 3-3-20-12-7601, the general capital budget, equipment purchase, PW. I so move. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Cormier. On the question. On the question, Ms. Arsenault. The cost is $30,484 plus HST. Is that it? Yes. Thank you. I wanted to be sure. No other question? All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. Bring us to 10.5.2. Mr. Leblanc has left, no, not left, but has withdrawn. I don't see him anywhere. For the reading of the resolution, for the reading, Ms. Lamoutier. Either you put your mic on or I will. Thank you, Your Worship. At Council Award, the contract for the purchase of a 1-ton truck for the Recreational Facilities Division to Lounsbury Automotive Limited at the cost $55,759 plus HST pursuant to the proposed dated March the 20th, 2020, and authorize these expenses to be defrayed from account 3-3-20-12-7903, General Capital Budget, Equipment Purchase, CLD. All right, so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Lamoutier, seconded by Councillor Alain. On the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. This brings us to 10.6.1. Mr. Nassau, is Mr. Leblanc back in? How? He's back, thank you. You have the approval of the Bourbois subdivision, the tentative plan. The council had asked for the advisory. We recommend that you proceed. And the creation of 2 public property over and above, the committee recommends the council to use the following village, Beaubois, and Croissant des Sources. This is for the consideration of council for the reading of the resolution. Mr. Brideau. Jean-Marc, go ahead. Can you hear me? Yes, Mr. Brito, go ahead. Thank you, Worship. That council accept the Planning Advisory Committee recommendation relating to the acceptance of the Village Beaubois Initiative residential plan, which provides the creation of 2 public streets as well as the location of public purpose and the local government services easement. That council further accept the name said streets, Beaubois Drive and Sources Crescent. I so move. Your worship. Moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. On the question. I see no question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. 10.6.2, Mr. Mnasso. It's a PAC Planning Advisory Committee recommendation for rezoning application from Serge Gova, as mentioned in bylaw 710. That is mentioned PIN in front of you. The council asks that you accept this subject to section 59. 3 elements were underlined, and that we proceed with the first and second reading by title only. It's for the consideration of council. Thank you for the reading of the resolution. Ms. Arsenault. There. Thank you, Worship. That council accept the recommendation made on March the 18, 2020 by the Planning Advisory Committee concerning the amendment of the zoning map zoning bylaw as outlined in bylaw 2017-7 relating to the line identified under PID 008-1995 in order to accommodate the development of multiple unit dwelling. That council further accept that this application be subject to section 59 of the Community Planning Act with the following conditions. A, that the property be developed in general conformity with the development and plan entitled Site Plan dated December the 17th, 2019 for the 1317 Amiro multi-resident project and attached to the memorandum dated April the 1st, 2020 as Schedule A. 2, that said multiple unit dwelling be developed in general conformity by incorporating the architectural elements shown in the architectural profile entitled Profile Architectural 1317 Amiro dated March 10, 2010 for the 1317 Amiro Mini Res project and attached to the memorandum dated April 1st, 2020 in Schedule B, unless specifically cited from the list at the provision of zoning bylaw in effect applies. That council proceed with first and second reading of bylaw Z-10 bracket 2017-7. Strange noise. Yeah, I don't know. Moved by Ms. Arsenault, seconded by what's that? So moved by Ms. Arsenault, seconded. Councillor Jacqueline, call me on the question. No question. Those in favor, say aye. Yes. Contrary minded. Resolution is carried as presented. This brings us to 11.1, which is 78-5. $78.5. It's a third reading in its entirety and third reading after. For this reading, Mr. Leblanc. Roger Leblanc. There. Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw number 78-5, bracket 11-2020, a bylaw in amendment of the bylaw number 78-5 of the Municipality of Dieppe respecting the water and sewerage system pursuant to the authority vested in it by the local government's SNB 2017 Chapter 18, the Council of the Municipality of Dieppe enacts as follows. The table in Section 16, bracket 5B is amended by deleting the following: 6 mini house park, 1 unit per mini house unit. I so move. Reading in its entirety. Thank you. Moved by reading in its entirety by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. So, adopted. The bylaw 78-5 is accepted by reading in its entirety. Now proceed with the third reading by title only. Monsieur Leblanc. Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw number 78-5, bracket 11-2020. A bylaw in amendment of the bylaw number 78-5 of the Municipality of Dieppe respecting the water and sewer system. I so move for in third reading. Moved by second reading, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded. So the bylaw is carried, is adopted. 78-5 is accepted as presented. The third and final reading. This brings us to item 11.2. Bylaw C29 for reading by title only. The first reading. For this reading, by title only, Monsieur Thibodeau, go ahead. Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw number C-29, bylaw authorizing the City of Dieppe to permanently close Reunion Street. I move by title only. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Brideau. On the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. All those against, nay. Carried. Thank you. It's accepted. First reading. We'll proceed now with the next item. Z10. What about second reading? Oh, second reading also. Sorry. I have a hard time with my agenda tonight for some reason. For the second reading, Monsieur Thibodeau. Bylaw number C-29, bylaw authorizing the City of Dieppe to permanently close Reunion Street. I so move. Second reading by title only. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau. Once again, seconded by Councillor Brideau, I believe. On the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. C-29 is accepted. Second reading. Now we'll proceed with 11.3, bylaw. For the reading by title only, once again, first and second reading. For this reading, Monsieur Alain, are you ready? Put your mic on. Go ahead. Thank you. Bylaw number Z-10 2017-7. Bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. Move by Councillor Alain. Seconded by Councillor Sundar on the question. No question? All those in favor say aye. Yes. Contrary minded, nay. Resolution is adopted for Z10, first reading by title. We'll proceed with the second reading, once again by title only. Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Worship. Bylaw number Z10 2017-17, bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. I so move. Moved by Councillor Alain. Once again, seconded by Mr. Snow. For the vote, if there's no question, all those in favor say aye. Say aye. Contrary minded. It's accepted, the second reading by title only. This brings us to the end of the agenda, unless, once again, we have something else. Is that it? So, now, Councillor Alain has the first right to speak. No objection since your mic is open. Go ahead. Thank you, Worship. I simply want to congratulate everybody. There was 0 cases this year, but I send out the idea, I hope, at the city level. We're talking about a planned summer is coming. There's a lot of startup project that will start at one side, and also the human side. It was not easy for some persons, for the seniors, our children, and certainly people with their job. It's not obvious, but I hope that there will be 2 facets on infrastructure, and I'm sure that the manager is ready for that, ready for the challenge. But we should see the human side. As I said, the seniors did not have a chance to go outside to visit their family. The children were unable to practice their sports, to play well in the playground. There certainly will be people who will need help. I hope during the summer that the startup will be very good. These are my comments for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Alain. There's no doubt that the startup would be very important, Mr. Snow. Thank you, Worship. I just want to say, be patient. Let's persevere, and things we will make it. Let's be courageous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Worship. Similarly, I'm very happy to see the reaction for COVID-19. A lot of people respect the council, and that's why in New-Brunswick we have so little number of cases compared to elsewhere on a per capita basis. Secondly, I would like to sincerely thank the councillors for the confidence that they've expressed in me by electing me as deputy mayor. Thank you very much to one and all. Thank you. That's it? Yeah. Thank you. Mrs. Leboutier. Your Worship, I would like to start by thanking the administrator, the directors, and all the employees of the city of Dieppe for the time that they've spent, many thousands of hours, to everybody to make it through all the COVID, to have a strategic plan to protect our citizens. One and all, I'm also completely in agreement with the proposal that Councillor Ella is bringing forward to try and develop new initiatives inside our sport and recreation department for the months that are coming up that may allow, and we have to follow the guidelines established by the province, but to try and start thinking about that and see what we can do. I would like to underline, I've had the experience on the weekend, the app market, you can go online and you can order the service. It's impeccable, and it allow us to help our local people. Also, don't forget our small business, some business are open and they offer home delivery. Let's not forget them. I would like to say it. I went for a walk and to use my bicycle while the weather allowed it. There's a lot of more people traveling, and some people seem to be the garbage seem to be taken to the roadside more often because they're being used. Let's continue. Things will go well. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Boudier. Mr. Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. I want to say one more time my hat off to the people of New-Brunswick and the citizen of Dieppe for their patience and their participation in all that is happening. It's hard for everybody, but let's congratulate the people from my ward. That's where that I am more often. People keep meeting. We meet face to face in the street, on sidewalk, by 12 and 15, 16 feet apart. But we greet each other and the people keep on walking to enjoy the sun. That is something, congratulate the people. It's important to go and to keep busy. The other thing I want to bring up, and I always brought it in the past, I see there's a lot of young people who bring their dog for a walk. There's a lot of brown bags on the side of the sidewalks. I don't like to bring this up, but if you don't bring the bags home, they will stay on the side of the road. We don't have police to pick them up, so please, if we want to keep our ward clean, pick up your garbage, bring them home, put them in your garbage can, and we'll keep our community clean as much as possible. So I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure those who have animals, it's good to bring them outside, but you have to pick up behind them. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you to all the councillors, and good evening. Thank you, Monsieur Brideau. Bring me to Mr. Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. I join my voice to those who have already expressed some feelings, some wishes. I share them all, and I thank our citizens. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Leblanc. Thank you, Your Worship. Does the municipality offer a scholarship for the students at the university starting in September of this year? Within the scholarship or the gift that we gave to University of Moncton, It's divided in three categories. One with the students from the city of Dieppe, and the other one sports program, and the third one I forget. But definitely, a list is published on a yearly basis by the University of Moncton for the students who receive the scholarship, and also within BCC. It's through University of Moncton. You have to go through University of Moncton, and NBCC. There's a scholarship recognized by the city of Moncton, and it's through the college, chosen by university. It has to do with their criteria. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Godet, where is he? He's hidden in the back, upstairs. You had a promotion in the corner. Thank you, Your Worship. I won't repeat everything that was said, but I want to wish good courage to everybody. We'll make it true. I'd like to mention tomorrow. Tomorrow it's called Canadian Day of Takeout. In other words, it's one way of encouraging everybody to think of the restaurants that are open and that give services to the clients either at the door or by delivery, and it will be celebrated throughout Canada. I invite our citizens to help the restaurants so that they can be there at the end of this difficult period. I encourage people to help them. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Godet. I'll remove that one from my list. National Takeout Day. There's tomorrow, and once again, like everyone has done, I want to thank our citizens for the efforts that they are doing right now to continue to maintain and follow the counsels of Dr. Jennifer Russell, who is doing a fantastic job for the city of New-Brunswick and for all of us. I would like to add one thing. I see that with a lot less people on the road traffic-wise, what I regret the most is that the vehicles are, there's less of them, but they drive faster than ever. So please be careful. There's less traffic. There's no reason to be in a hurry. And I encourage, we will certainly give the word to our friends from the RCMP. Once again, please give out the message. We have a lot more people walking. And when we meet someone, we have to move out to walk in the cycling trail, but we encourage people to continue to maintain the cap. We will win. There's no doubt about it. And we look at the figures, we see when we compare, we console ourselves, but I think we can see through the figures that New Brunswick is doing very well, and especially in Southeast. We have more than 1/3 of the population in Southeast New Brunswick. On that, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your cooperation. And let's keep on. See you later. Good evening, everyone.